Hello, everyone. If you can hear me, clap one time. If you can hear me, clap one time. If you can hear me, clap twice.
Hello.
If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 5 times. This is a rowdy crowd tonight, so good. It's time to start the NPA meeting, so please finish your sentence. Okay, everyone, it's time to start our NPA meeting. If you would like to continue your conversation, please go into the hallway. But if you can hear me, we're going to clap 5 times one more time. Great, thank you. I'm Molly. I am on the Ward 2-3 Steering Committee, which helps pull together these meetings every month. We meet on the second Thursday of every month, so thank you so much for coming. We have an agenda which is on your table for tonight's meeting, and the first matter of business is to approve that agenda. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda? Joe moved to adopt the agenda. Thank you. Does someone second that? Second by Lauren. Anyone, any discussion? All in favor of adopting the agenda? Anyone opposed? Great, thank you. So we have a steering committee that organizes these meetings. We have myself, Lauren, Erica, Roxanne, Jess in the kitchen, and a few, Amy, thank you, Amy, good to see you, and a few members who aren't able to join us tonight. So if you are ever interested in joining our steering committee, we're always looking for new members, and please speak to one of us if you are interested. We have some important members. We have an important opportunity for people to get engaged with the community. There is something called the Community Development Block Grant, and that is informed by an advisory committee that helps determine how federal funding to alleviate poverty is allocated in our community. So a representative from every ward is on the advisory committee, and they review proposals and vote for how to allocate this funding. And we have an opportunity for someone who lives in Ward 3 to sit on that committee, as well as a youth representative, someone between the ages of 16 and 24. We may have an opening for Ward 2. It's a little unclear yet. So if you're interested in serving on this committee, please come speak with any of those steering committee members. At a future meeting, hopefully in December, we will have a vote to appoint somebody. So again, that is the Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee, and they meet to help allocate federal funding for alleviating poverty. Great. We wanted to just let folks know that we will be having a bylaws discussion in a future meeting. Some of you may be aware that the City Council has made some important resolutions around inclusivity with our NPAs, and we are reviewing that and working with them to review our bylaws against that resolution. So that is coming. It's not on the agenda tonight. Finally, if you're paying attention to the agenda, you'll see we have NPA member introductions. I'm going to punt that to a little further down the agenda, so stay tuned when that's going to pop up again. So without further ado, we'll start public forum. If anyone would like to make an announcement, a comment, please keep it to 2 minutes and introduce yourself with your name, where you live, and your pronouns. That would be appreciated. Thanks. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Melissa Heather Kane. I use she, they pronouns, and I am a guest from Ward 1. I apologize, but I've been coming for about 7 or 8 years now. I wanted to announce the Old North End Holiday Market. It's our 3rd annual one. It will be upstairs. It is Sunday, December 3rd from 11 to 3. It's a lot of Old North Enders. It is free to come in, so please mark your calendars. And there's some extra posters over here. Please, if you don't mind picking up a poster if you have a place to put it, because organizing this is difficult. Please, if you wouldn't mind. Also, I have a bunch of these that I'm giving out. I'm an artist as well. They're over there because trans rights matter. And in this difficult time that we are living in right now, and we have people right in this town, right in this room right now, who are against trans rights. And so if anyone would like to pick any one of these up, please feel free. They're back there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Melissa. Anyone else for public forum?
Hi, my name is Constance. I actually live in South Burlington, and my pronouns are she and her. You can probably tell, though, I'm not a native Vermonter. I am the training coordinator at the Burlington PD, and we are very pleased to announce that after 3 years of not being able to have Community Academy, we are going to be holding it again in 2024, which I cannot believe it's going to be 2024. Real quick, a Community Academy is just a way for the people to come in and learn a little more about the police department, about the police officers, and the civilians like myself who work there. So it's not all just uniformed people. It's going to be starting on January 3rd. That's a Wednesday. It will continue each Wednesday until February the 7th. And it is from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And yes, it is a time commitment, but it's a lot of fun, and we really, really want people to come to it. The only requirements are if you work in Burlington or you live in Burlington, and if you're 18 or older, and that's the only requirements. So I do have some flyers. Where can I put the flyers? I don't know where. Okay, I'll do that. I'll leave some flyers. We have a little QR code on there that you can scan. Or you can email me. My email's on here, and I will send you an application through email. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, I'm Cindy White. I'm in Ward 7. I want to make sure everybody knows that the Tibetan Festival is tomorrow from 10 to 4. Or excuse me, tomorrow's not Saturday. I think of tomorrow as a Saturday because I work for the city and I have tomorrow off. So it's Saturday. So Saturday, 10 to 4, and great music with a lot of great, very talented city staff that will be performing. So we hope you come out and enjoy the show. Where is it? It's here. Upstairs. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Keegan Lafferty. I use she, her pronouns, and I actually live at UVM, so I don't live in these wards, but I'm here to represent Big Heavy World, which is a music nonprofit in Burlington focused on inclusivity and equal access to the music industry. And one of the main projects that we're working on is building a youth cultural space. So something that provides youth with opportunities for music, experiences, and just a safe place. It's really, really important that we implement a program like this. And I also have a printout here. It's 30 pages of comments supporting a petition with over 2,500 signatures to put a place like this in place. And so it's really important that we have the actions of people working within the city to help us achieve this. And I really hope that all of you can help support as well. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm State Representative Emma Mulvaney-Stanek. I have just two quick things. One is going on a theme. You probably have seen these around the neighborhood. This was an effort about 2 years ago, also a trans-affirming inclusive sticker that we fundraised as a community, mostly Old North End folks, to design and put out. We got 1,000 of them, and we're down to the last 50 or so, which are also on the table, so please take them. They're great to put up in all spaces, and it's always great and affirming to have them in places when you're going into a store or a child care center or a school, so please take them. That was the intention to put them out there. And the other quick thing is I'm running for mayor, so I just wanted folks to know that, and you can come by and ask me a question if you like, or about state rep stuff. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Hi everyone, for those who don't know me, my name is Joe McGee. I use he and they pronouns. I live in Ward 3 and I am your Ward 3 City Councilor, at least until April. I announced today that I am not running for re-election, and I just wanted to say a quick thank you to you all. This has been a tremendous community space. I'm sure it will continue to be a tremendous community space, and I will be here as your City Councilor through April and look forward to being here as a community member thereafter. So just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public forum? Charlie, we have someone over here.
Hey everybody, this is Ivan Klipstein. Living outside of the Old North End at the moment, thanks to the rental crisis. Just wanted to say thank you to everybody who voted for my project to be greenlighted by the Vermont Arts Council. It was awarded, thanks to y'all. So that's gonna be some Old North End related illustration work. Second small community art announcement is that at the end of last year, there was a community fund awarded for a multilingual community calendar, a wall calendar that I'm putting together that you all voted to support. So look out for that. It's going to be dropping towards the holidays, and it'll be available for free all up and down the shops, all around the neighborhood and beyond. So I just wanted to say thanks for your support, and it was really nice to have dinner with y'all.
Congratulations. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to do public forum? Apparently we have 3 folks joining us on Zoom. Seeing none, last call? Okay, great. Well, we will move on to our first agenda item, which is updates and conversations with our school commissioners and city councilors. So if those present would like to come up to the front. I think we have 2 school commissioners joining us via Zoom, Polly and Jeannie. Okay, great. Well, maybe we'll start with our city councilors in the hopes that Polly is able to join us a little later.
Is that you're going to have your back to everybody online. So that's why I said.
Hello.
Yeah, they're very sensitive tonight. So maybe we could start
have
off
Jean's statement.
with 5 minutes
Would
each
you-
and then open it up for discussion.
Would you like to split this with me? It's long, but it's important. It's important. Gene had, he could not be here tonight. He had a family obligation, but he sent notes, very important notes. And actually, it would be things that we would be talking about anyway. Why don't I start with that on housing? And then we'll try, there's a lot that's been happening. So I'm gonna start with Jean and then maybe comment on the housing and then go to this next. And that is the way we will do it. Thank you all. On housing, it is no secret that the over-enrollment and underhousing of UVM students, graduate and undergraduate, has greatly contributed to a housing crisis that has spanned the 50+ years I've been active in this community. Finally, UVM seems to recognize that it too is suffering from the lack of housing for its students. At the November 20th council meeting, we will be discussing a memorandum of understanding with UVM that links the zoning changes it seeks on its campus with the housing crisis. I believe the current proposal is woefully insufficient and will not impact the significant housing deficit that UVM enrollment and housing policies have caused since 1970. I also believe there needs to be much greater transparency with regard to the matter. Currently, this is all being done in executive session under the contract negotiations exemption to the open meeting law. I understand that this is technically permissible and that the negotiations are not best done in public, but this matter needs much more public light before a vote is taken than what is being contemplated. I believe your communications to the full council about the need to hold UVM accountable and for the maximum amount of transparency would be helpful. I agree with this 100%. I have trust issues with UVM. I have said publicly many times that if they want to talk about adding new beds for each new student, we have to know what their enrollment numbers are. They have to make certain commitments in writing. And new beds doesn't mean you force another double into a triple. And these are the things that continue to be important to me, and I know they're important to people in the community. I have also said that in the past that I don't believe that UVM has been a very good community partner of late, and I still stand by that. No. Look, okay. Climate. It is long. I think the carbon fee ordinance, though. Carbon fee ordinance is coming to the council for a vote on November 20th. Once again, this is Gene's note. He's on the committee. I was able to improve some aspects of the ordinance and will continue to try to improve it by removing exemptions for questionable or harmful things like so-called green hydrogen, renewable natural gas, and biofuel at the full council meeting on the 20th. Community engagement has been impressive and helpful, so please consider contacting counselors and showing up on the 20th. Ward 3 resident Nick Person Perry, I apologize, has been a really good contact. So this is really important because it does affect the McNeil District Heat Steam Pipe Project to UVM Medical Center. That has been an extremely hot topic. We have gotten a lot of emails on it. Do you want to read some of this and then we can talk about it? And if people have any questions on it, can let us know.
Sure. So we haven't gotten confirmation yet, but we are likely voting on November 20th to whether or not we are going to implement the district energy proposal that would carry waste steam heat from McNeil to UVM Medical Center. Currently, as the proposal has been talked about, UVM Medical Center would be the only customer for the waste heat from McNeil. I have great concerns with that. It's a massive infrastructure investment in a wood-burning plant that is very bad for our environment, and making this infrastructure investment when we should be phasing out of burning fuels that put carbon into the environment. I have an issue with that, and many folks have reached out to the council about this on both sides of the issue, so I encourage folks to do more research and prepare for that meeting on November 20th. I'm happy to answer questions that folks have over email or meet in person.
I myself have been going back and forth. I've been talking to a lot of people about the project. Yes, it is a concern to me that UVM Medical Center would be the only customer. But there's the thought that it's a start, and that we'd have to start somewhere, and that if they were to still sign on to this project, because we have to approve it, there's other things, the carbon fees have to be approved, because they essentially are agreeing to do this because they don't want to be hit with the carbon fees. This is really financial for them, right? But if that's what motivates people to think about climate change, then that's what motivates people to think about climate change. So it would be impactful in that it would reduce the fossil fuels that they are currently using on their outdated systems. So they need to be thinking about something too. The money is going to be handled by a nonprofit. There are other monies floating around that are meant to be incentives to make this project go forward. But there is a lot of conflicting information, and I think sometimes I feel as soon as I've got it, someone else sends something and says, hey, you need to think about this, because they are cutting down whole trees. It's not just wood chips, and so then it's coming back and saying, okay, I have to validate that now. It's a very important issue that everyone should definitely be looking at, because it'll really be impactful in our area.
Another item that I wanted to cover, on Monday we voted as a council to enter into a letter of intent with two local developers, Eric Farrell and Joe Larkin, who are going to be engaging with the city to look into the feasibility of redeveloping the block that includes Memorial Auditorium, the Central Fire Station. I think this is a really important step for the city to take. We have had several stops and starts with Memorial, and it's gotten to a point where the building is no longer manageable for the city to continue to maintain. And so as it continues to lay vacant and condemned, I think it's an important step for us to take the next few months until March to see if a development agreement can be drawn up to bring much needed housing to that block, and see what other options there are for redeveloping the block. So I encourage folks to continue to follow that. I know it isn't the outcome that we all hoped for when these conversations around Memorial first started. A lot has changed since 2018 when the community voiced support for a multi-use space that still had a large gathering space. We are in a housing crisis right now, and I think doing everything that we can to make sure that we're getting more housing units online, especially in an area as densely populated as downtown, is important. So I would encourage folks to continue following that.
I agree as well. I would have liked a little bit more transparency and to have more information about the letter of intent before it was brought to us. It was literally brought to us, and our first and only discussion was at the Monday night meeting. But I was loath to vote against it because we all see what the situation has been. It did include thinking about community spaces. So that was important to me, and hopefully that can come to pass. Anyone have any questions on any of these items so far?
Go ahead, Andrea.
I'm not sure. Am I on? I just want to say that I read that article this week, and it was really, really disheartening that that's the direction that the city's decided to go. It's like it just was intentionally neglected until it had to be this way. And so I'm really sorry that you're supporting the demolition, if that's what you're supporting. I'm hoping that there's a way to consider keeping that building a building. Maybe the use is different, maybe there's some other way to do it, but I feel like this is the administration's period of I want to say reign, but I'll just say the administration's period that has allowed this to be neglected is really disappointing. And I would hope that you as our representatives would kind of call that out a little bit more, please.
Yes, we did. We tried. We got yelled at. This is really so difficult for me because I had a great love, in particular, for the 242 space. I've always was a really big, a lot of you know that I'm into music, and I just love music and shows, and I went to a lot of shows myself at 242. I knew people who organized at 242. I knew how important it was for the youth in our community. I mean, we really don't have a space like that at all for youth in our community, and we don't have a lot of spaces, period, for youth in our community. My kid did rock camp there for 2 years, and he loved it, and it was a safe space for him, great activity for him after school. The horrendous situation is that building has been so neglected. It's done. It's done. What we can hope for is to have the developers, they did put it in the letter of intent that they would be looking at least some kind of community space. It wouldn't be the size. I don't know if they can save like maybe the front part of the building or something. I don't know. It is just so, it's unsafe. It's rotting on the inside. If we didn't have the issue with the high school, we might have another option. But with the money that has to be spent on the high school, there's just no way we can raise the taxes to keep it as a city building. I would have liked to have a more public RFP process. I would have liked to have known if more people were involved in submitting ideas. But we didn't get that. We just got kind of ambushed with an idea.
I just want to bounce off of what you were saying, and I want to agree with you. And I think that the decision, it is really, really disappointing, especially because I'm here representing Big Heavy Worlds, and it's a huge part of Burlington's history, and I can't imagine what I would have done. I didn't grow up with 242 Main, but I grew up in Colorado with a space like that, and I can't imagine what I possibly would have done without that. And seeing that just like completely torn down is just like really, really disappointing. And I think that if there's a way to at least maintain like you said, the front of the building or something that can be there just as a symbol of its history, I think that would make a big difference. And I think that would make it better. And I would really, really love if you guys could take that into consideration when making these decisions. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you for that. I think, it's important to note here that part of the letter of intent is that, what can be saved of the building, every effort should be made to do that. Saving the actual veterans memorials that are in the auditorium, that is of utmost importance, and so that's all part of this process. Unfortunately, because this has dragged out for so long, we did have an RFP process last year or earlier this year to have a community partner try and do something in memorial. That fell through at the last possible moment before an agreement was signed, and so this is the unfortunate conclusion of that. And as Milo said, with the bonding for the high school, the city doesn't really have the capacity to take this project on by ourselves.
I know that I'll be fighting I don't want the city to sell the property. I want it to be a lease. We shouldn't give that up. We've given up so much public property. I'll mention too, I sent the information to Jim Lockridge because I knew he would be very, very interested in it, because he is also advocating for some type of youth space. If it can't be like bringing front 242 was a band, 242 Main back. That is near and dear to my heart, so I'm going to be fighting at some level for that.
I think we can do maybe 2 more questions in the room and then check in with Zoom and then move on to our school counselors.
My name is Solveig Overby, and I just want to comment on 2 things. Number one, the situation with the Gateway block was a carefully orchestrated situation. was on the Public Works Commission years and years ago. I mean, and I just left, but we were talking about that, and I've been concerned about that. And thankfully, I actually did speak with our CEDAR director, Brian Pine, about this lease proposal, and he has said that he's committed to that as well. And other communities do long-term leases for things like this. We don't really know what the city's going to need in 75 years, let's say. Right. So you do not sell municipal property. You do long-term leases. The developer can then do whatever they need to do. Obviously, people are going to be sad about the Memorial Auditorium, but we will not have been giving away property that we might need as a community in 75 years. So I just want people to know that's something we need to make sure that we don't let that slip away because the developers say, well, we won't accept that condition. And I do appreciate that Brian, that you've committed to making that happen. So let's just keep that pressure on. The second thing is I do support the McNeil Waste Heat project because, frankly, the waste slash from the wood that is harvested otherwise for other purposes is going to get burned anyway. And the old days, they just have a big slash pile, and it would just be burned in where it's burned. Unless people stop using wood for furniture or wood for building homes, we are going to continue to have that kind of slash. I would like to have us use the waste heat, and again, it is transition to get the UVM Medical Center off of the gas. It is not the end all be all, but I did take a wood management class at UVM a few years ago, so I'm sort of not an expert that's not my business. However, that's what's going to happen. You will think you're going to get rid of burning the scrap wood. You're not. It's just going to be uncontrolled, and they do have foresters trying to manage and help the guys that are doing the logging of the wood for other purposes to do it properly. So I think this is an opportunity we should not walk away from. I know people are thinking it's going to be burning more wood chips, and the answer is it's going to get burned if you don't do it the way we're doing it now and actually get some value for electricity and for waste heat. It's just going to go off. It'll get burned some other way. So that's my point on that. So I appreciate people actually looking into that as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sylvie.
One last question in the room? Or comment? Okay, let's check in on Zoom. I see Polly and Jeannie have their hands raised. Are these questions for the City Council? Great. Polly, I saw your hand first.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to lower it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. So a comment and then a question. I would say that deferred maintenance on all of these buildings, so Memorial Auditorium and BHSBTC, is what has led to this crisis for both that gateway block and for BHSBTC. It's just that we acknowledged or learned about it in a critical way about BHSBTC maybe before the official acknowledgement came about for Memorial Auditorium and the gateway block. So it's not like one crisis has caused our inability to deal with the other. It's that we as a community for years and years and years did not pay to maintain these buildings. And I would add to that the responsibility of the state of Vermont, which has not funded education construction, period, for at least 15 years. And I would put a lot of the BHS-BTC crisis on the back of our state for not funding it for all of the schools, so that we as a city potentially could have, in a shoulda, coulda, woulda scenario, funded maintenance of this building, Memorial Auditorium, that was built to honor veterans. So like the shift from putting statues and sculptures in parks to having buildings that were community spaces that simultaneously honored those from our community. I think a lot of that historical context has been lost. So those are my comments. My question, because I think Eric Farrell and Joe Larkin have the money that we as a city don't have, and that's why we are in this situation, is architecturally, I hope that we as a city, I don't know if it's the council or if it's constituents, have the ability to weigh in on what those buildings look like. Because Eric Farrell's buildings at Cambrian Rise, I don't know who designed them, but they don't, to me, reflect architecturally the Queen City.
And it would be really nice if we are in downtown Burlington and we're dealing with developers developing on this property to have something that is truly beautiful. It might cost more, it might take longer to make that happen, but man, I do not want to look at like square little boxes that are painted brown. What they put in on North Avenue is not reflective of the beauty of that space or of this city. So anyway, my question or slash comment is, do we have the ability to do that if we are negotiating with these developers?
Brian's shaking his head. Yes, but I think we need to demand it because the way this was brought forth, I had a lot of problems with. I didn't find it to be transparent. I felt it was like, it's this or nothing, and how can you think about turning this down? I'm like, well, I would have liked to have seen more information before. We're essentially having the one and only conversation about it. A resolution's been written up, and you're yelling at us because we want to put in some amendments that we think are reflective and that the community would care about. So to me, it was handled very badly. So I encourage everyone to email the mayor so that we can have this type of input, because that is, when you look at that building has such character, and we're gonna lose that. And well, I mean, I really can't say for sure, but I just know that given the issue with deferred maintenance, I will also throw in that we have deferred maintenance throughout this whole city. We had a chunk of a concrete ceiling come down in one of the firehouses onto a staircase that leads to a basement where vehicles are stored, equipment stored, and they do trainings, and we were just really lucky no one was on that staircase. So there's a lot of severe deferred maintenance throughout the entire city. The FY25 budget is looking at a huge deficit without even addressing what needs to be addressed. So there's a lot that's coming down the line. But thank you very much for those words and the statement, because it's all very true.
Did you want to quickly comment on that, Brian?
I'm willing to, sure. I'm Brian Pine, the director of the Community and Economic Development Office. And the qualities that, Polly, you were asking about, sort of the aesthetic and the visual qualities of the building, I think, is what you're getting at, is how does it look and appear in the process, I think is what you're asking. Do we have control over that, I think was the question? Okay, so the process will be just like a permit process that a development goes through. It will go through a permit process. So that is not going to be bypassed if the council in the end decides to endorse a particular direction. It won't be the council approving a particular design or a particular building, because that goes through the process of the Design Advisory Board, which are citizens who have design expertise, and then the Development Review Board, and that process will continue. It won't bypass that. And let's just be clear, there's no foregone conclusion that Memorial gets torn down. It may not be salvageable, but it may be. And by the way, the two people who are involved because they own, or they have what's called site control of the in-holdings, the properties that allow for the whole Gateway block, Memorial, all the way to South Winooski Avenue to be viewed as one redevelopment opportunity. Without them, you've got Memorial, and then you've got their property, and then you've got a parking lot. So it's really intended to be a more comprehensive look at the whole block. So that's that purpose. So the local developers are more likely, I think, and they're at least expressed their desire to see if the building can be repurposed, reused, salvaged as much as possible. So that's an assurance they've provided.
Great, thank you. Jeannie, you had your hand up. Can you make your question quick? We're
I
running
did.
late.
Well, real briefly, I think there's just an overwhelming consensus that 242 is really missed. And as much as it doesn't necessarily have to happen in Old Memorial or whatever is re-envisioned there, but I think that that whole has, I think it's just been marketable, right? And I do know that part of the Champlain Housing Trust intent with their $20 million donation is to do some work, community center, rehab, whatever, development in Winooski. And I just wonder if it's on their radar, or I wonder if we, just as a community, are making it clear, like, we need to revive something that is similar to that. Who knows if it'll ever be the same again, but I think we really need it. Our teens are, they need it.
Great. Thank
That's
you.
all.
Definitely. And I just have a couple of other quick things. Just a reminder about See, Click, Fix, having that app on your phone to report needles, to report garbage, vandalism, things like that. You can also report encampments or tents. They will send CSLs out to talk to individuals and offer them services, but things right now are very tight and very, very difficult. But that is a way to get garbage addressed if you see it on green belts. There's a lot of stuff happening in our green belts right now. I also wanted to encourage people to adopt a meeting. A lot of people don't watch city meetings, and I think it's really important, missing a lot of information. And Town Meeting TV has, when you go to Town Meeting TV on YouTube and you click playlist, they have now grouped the meetings by municipality, so you can click on Burlington, and then the meetings will be the most recent ones first, but you kind of can scroll through, watch city council meetings, watch police commission meetings, TOOC meetings, other meetings. You can also, Civic Clerk is the new, I don't know if everyone's familiar with Board Docs, but this is basically the software where agendas and meetings are kept. It takes some getting used to. You go to the calendar for government meetings, and then you click on the calendar, click on the meeting that you're interested in. You have to kind of play around with it to get used to searching for everything, but it'll have the minutes, the agendas, and eventually the meetings will also be attached in what's called a media file there. But I really want to encourage people to be more informed, because there's a lot of stuff I think that's going to be happening very quickly. I think we're going to have a lot more thrown at us at the last minute in the next few months, and I think it's really important that people are paying attention and raising their voices with regards to that. And the final thing that I will say is be aware of promises to have more police. We can't add more police officers faster than what's already occurring. We've increased the salaries, done sign-on bonuses, we've done retention bonuses, very strong contract that has a lot of protections for officers, some protections that don't take into consideration accountability and oversight. But as I said Monday night, we did that. They're applying at the rate that they're applying for different reasons. People are still leaving. There's nobody who's running for office who's going to be able, come April 1st, to give you more police officers. So just be very wary of those promises. Things that happened last winter are getting ready to happen again. Have a plan if you're ordering packages online. How are those packages going to be delivered? Are you going to be home? Do you need to have them delivered someplace else where someone can get them immediately? Don't warm up your car and walk away from it. Someone could drive it away. And if you can put together, organize friends, family to donate gloves, socks, coats, anything that you have, it's going to be really needed, because we are going to continue to have people outside in the elements, and they're going to need these type of things. Toiletry items, these will all be in demand. I was up at Ward 1 last night. If you just to give a pitch for a presentation they had, the community support liaison supervisor It was a very, very interesting conversation, and I urge everyone to check that out as well. And we should invite her.
Okay, thank
Lacey
you.
Smith, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming. Just a note that we have a copy of Jean's comments, and they are on our link tree, I think Roxanne called it. If you use the QR code, you can get them directly. We'll also link them to our meeting notes, so if you're interested in reading them in full, you can find them there. With that, we'll pivot to our school commissioners who are joining us via Zoom. We have about 7 minutes to get an update, and then about 5 minutes for questions. So.
Hey, I'm Polly Vanderputten, currently the Ward 3 school commissioner. Jeannie, who is Jeannie Waltz, the district commissioner for Wards 2 and 3. Would you like me to start, or would you like to go first?
I'm really just here to answer questions, Polly. I know you got the reporting. Polly's really good at this, you guys. At least I appreciate it.
I was
Thank you.
once told, like, if you go to a meeting, then like know what you're gonna say. Have at least a couple things. So I have my 2 things, and I'm fully expecting some of my technology to fail tonight because I wanted to share my screen to show you some information that we discussed at our most recent meeting. And the reason I wanted to share my screen is because there was a constituent who came to us and said, hey, it's really hard to find your agendas and to find the meetings and to find the information. And I thought, okay, so maybe I'm going to try this out tonight to show you somewhat how to do it. It's linear, it's very wonky, and also just to show you those things. And then I have a very brief budget update. So let me try this. So I just wanted to talk about or show you where the global ends presentation and the school snapshots are from our most recent agenda, because I thought it was really interesting and something that people might want to look at and possibly digest. It ties into our strategic plan. We're in year 1 of our strategic plan, and that's kind of outlined in these. So share my screen, and it's telling me open system preferences, and sorry, this may or may not work. I'm on my husband's computer, and I am not sure if this is gonna work. Okay. Nope. I had a feeling this was not gonna work. Okay. So, sorry, I'm not gonna waste my time or your time looking for this. What we discussed on Tuesday night was year 1 of the strategic plan, and we looked at 2 very meaty PowerPoints. They were PDFs, one the global ends and one the school snapshots. And if you go to board docs and then if you go to the bsdvt.org and click on school board and go to agenda, you will find there, it takes you to board docs, and you click on board docs and you go to the agenda meeting and go to the meeting. Sorry, this is all very messy. You can find November 7th, you can find all of them archived, and you can click on that to find this information. The reason I thought it was interesting in terms, especially of the school snapshots, is that it shows number of free and reduced lunch students, students of the global majority, so students who do not identify as white, and then where we are at with each of our schools in terms of our reading levels, so literacy levels, and belonging, sense of belonging, which is part of our strategic plan. So I encourage you to look at that, and I apologize. I thought I had this all set up, and I did not anticipate the Zoom sharing not working. We said we'd come to you with a budget update tonight, and I don't have a significant budget update other than to say that factors we will be considering very soon, so coming up in December, are the BHS BTC bond, because we did approve getting $130 million of the $165 million bond in order to start paying the construction costs. The COVID relief ESSER funds, you've probably heard that phrase, are drying up, which will be affecting some of the things we've been doing in the district. And then there are predictable increases in baseline expenses like salary and health insurance. We no longer negotiate health insurance with the union as a district. That's negotiated at the state level. So we don't have a lot of control over what that looks like. We just get a number and we have to factor that into our budget. The good news in terms of the wages piece, so wages and health insurance tend to be pretty significant, is that we settled a 3-year contract and the wages are going up about 5%, and we know that. So it's not like we have an unpredictable number that we're working with. We have something we know. And there will definitely be questions about programming and staffing, but we're not quite there yet. Tune in to school board meetings and school advisory groups, and if you're really interested in this, start asking about it at your local schools, because the principals are making decisions about their RISE allocations, which allow them to address issues specific to their schools. So we have baseline funding, and then we have things specific to each school that principals are dealing with, and that's all happening right now. Okay, I pass the baton to Jeannie.
Well, I wanted to point out the snapshot, the different, without actually seeing it on the screen. I don't know if I really should go into it. Yeah. The importance of restorative practices in the district is still, it's just one of those things that I think that the school board is, the district, the school board are super invested in. And there's a recent code of conduct that it took about, I got to say, about 1.5 years for it to be completely vetted. And it was rolled out early, I think it was middle of September. And for the first time in the district, there's a process, a restorative process that, or a system to, or I just want to say it's like a tight way for families, caregivers, community members to actually address a grievance. So, and also for a child to say, hey, I've been harmed and I want to figure out how to make it better. Whereas in the past, it was very much, the system was in favor of the adults in the school communities. And there was just a lot of concerns about that. Like, how does a kid feel heard, for one, and also get the chance to learn from the situation? And how does the adult get to learn from the situation? So it feels like this is it's a big deal. To me, it is. It's a big deal.
Thank you,
And
Jeannie.
okay.
We're at time, so I just wanted to create space for questions and comments for anybody in the audience or on Zoom world. Any questions or comments on Zoom? Looks like you've answered all of our questions. Do you want to talk about the budget in the time we have remaining?
I didn't quite hear you, Polly. You said talk about the budget?
No, that was the question from Molly, I think.
Yeah.
Or
we could save it till next month. I'm sure
there
there's lots
is
to say.
So no, well, there is and there isn't right now. But there is a document that was at our November 7th meeting, which is also available to the public, in which the different factors are outlined. It's just a one-page memo, and I found it very helpful. And it's not necessarily in order of priority. The one thing missing from that was the BHS BTC bond, which we're all thinking about, and also it's not quite real yet. And I think that's something that we're kind of anxious about it on the board, is like, that is going to become real for people in dollars and cents. And so that's going to cause us to feel some pressure around other aspects of the budget.
There is a positive element though. You know, a lot of your school board members went to bat at the state level to get how the educational funding is allocated across the state. We advocated for this weighted system to be reevaluated and revised, and it was. And it basically allocates funding where it is more needed, as in students who need a deeper, whatever their needs, were not being met with the past allocations, with the past weights. And we are expected to see the revised weights positively impact our finances on the district level. That does not necessarily mean that taxpayers are, I mean, I want to say, we just don't know what that looks like quite yet. We're hearing that it's going to be good, but we also know that that money is going to be used to educate children. But it is nice to know that we're actually going to get funding to do that, rather than, you know, I mean, part of when we go back to deferred maintenance, a lot of times we didn't spend money on fixing up a building because we wanted to spend money on educating children. So it is nice to be able to feel like there's some promise around being able to afford to do that moving forward.
Great. Thank you both. I think with that, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, we'll move on. Before we do, we just wanted to put a plug out for our raffle. We draw the raffle at the end of the meeting as a thank you for sticking it through the whole NPA. And we don't have a whole lot of signups yet, so I think some of you forgot to do it. So we'll pass it around. Put your name in. The door prize is 2 planter boxes to brighten up your winter. So who doesn't want a little indoor gardening this time of year? So be sure to put your name in. Yeah, it's on the honor system, so we're watching you. Great, so we're gonna move on to Roosevelt Park. Our largest park in the Old North End is getting an updated master plan. So we've invited our city staffers from Burlington Parks and Rec to come and give us an update on that, and then have some time for questions and comments. So thank you so much for coming. We thought we'd have about 10 minutes to hear the update, and then have about 15 minutes for comments and discussions. Thank you very much. You have to push up is on and down is.
Great, thank you. So my name is Sophie Sauvé. I'm the Parks Comprehensive Planner for the City of Burlington, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Waterfront. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces from last night, so hopefully this isn't too much of a repeat, but hopefully it's a good repeat so that you remember everything. Cindy White, our director, is also here to support in any questions you might have afterwards. So I'm just providing a bit of an overview of where we are with the comprehensive plan process. We no longer use master plan, just FYI, because it is obviously associated with historical wrongdoings. So comprehensive plan has the same conceptual idea. It's to give a vision for a park, in our case, for the long term. So just think about Roosevelt Park and what your dream is for the park. Maybe you think it's great as it is right now because it meets your needs, but the comprehensive plan is really about looking forward into the future, 5, 10 years. What kind of investments should the city make into that park so that when we're doing our capital planning, which is on a yearly basis, we're adding the needs of the park into the capital plan, which means at the end of this process, if you see something that you really love, say, I don't know, a splash pad into the park, you will not see it constructed next year. It needs to go into our plan. We need to find the funding for it, as well as balancing the needs throughout the city of all our parks. So that's competing needs of 35 other parks, 2 cemeteries, the Greenway, et cetera. So we just try and prioritize based on the capital plan, or based on the comprehensive plan for each park. We prioritize the needs and then look for funding or grant opportunities, donors, et cetera, to come and help meet the vision of the park once we have a comprehensive plan. So The next slide shows Calham, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I put Calham Park. I must have been sleeping this morning, sorry. Roosevelt Park, it was a late night last night. So Roosevelt Park, as it is today, if you haven't been in an airplane right above Roosevelt Park, this is what it looks like. So we have the fields that are there with the building, et cetera, the trees, just to give you an impression of what we're starting with. You can go to the next slide. So I think I mentioned what a comprehensive plan is. This may not look familiar to you if you haven't, again, been in an airplane directly above Perkins Pier, but we did a siting study for Perkins Pier, which is similar to a comprehensive plan just a few years ago, and that was the plan that we came up with. Each piece of this plan is being included in our capital planning in the long term. So it's really about looking at big ideas, but also listening to the smaller ideas, like, for example, there's not enough seating in the park, or there's not enough trash cans. But then bigger ideas such as maybe the playground shouldn't stay in Little Rosie, maybe it should move into the bigger portion of the park, etc. Okay, move forward. Yeah, there you go. So for Roosevelt Park, the planning process, we just had our first public meeting last night. It's a first of 3. So the first meeting essentially is to get an idea of what everybody's looking for in the park, what works, what doesn't work, etc. But we'll go through a process, and it's hard to tell what months these are, but essentially we started early in September doing outreach and engagement with different community members about what works in the park. And then from there, so we're in the first kind of portion of the project. Now that we've had the first public meeting last night, our consultants and our team at BPRW will work together to develop different options for the park. And then once we've done that, we'll have another public meeting where we'll give the public an opportunity to weigh in on those potential options. Often, what happens is we don't pick one option over the other. If there's 2, 3, or 4, it becomes what we call a Frankenstein. So say you like one portion of the one idea and you like another portion of another idea, we do the stitching afterwards. And the third public meeting will basically present that Frankenstein to the public and be the vision moving forward for Roosevelt Park. So it'll take us into 2024, most likely into the summer of 2024 before this all wraps up. Sometimes it takes longer. If we see that we need more input, we'll go and get that input, and it may delay our timeline, but there's no necessary deadline for this. So we're not under a time crunch to get it done. We just want to do it right. So the next slide shows the community engagement portion of the project. Essentially, as I mentioned, we had our first public meeting last night. In September, we had what's called the first Community Advisory Committee. So that's, we've been looking for individuals to join the Community Advisory Committee for this process so that we get input from the community members that represent the neighborhood around Roosevelt Park on the process itself, because every park that we do a comprehensive plan for, the community members around it are obviously different. And because Roosevelt Park is really a neighborhood park, we don't necessarily want like a ton of input or direction from someone who lives in Waterbury, but we do want people who live around the park to kind of give us an idea of how we should proceed. So we'll have 3 more Community Advisory Committee meetings, and we'll continue to do a lot of engagement with youth or schools or anyone who wants us to come and talk to them or to a group about the process. One, to just remind people that we are listening, and also to gain all the ideas that people have. So since basically May, when we issued our first request for proposals for a consultant to help us with this process, we've been out in the park saying this process is about to happen. Please give us some ideas of what you're thinking. So this was at Kids Day in May, which we host as part of BPRW. We were also tabling at the same time to just kind of say, hey, this is coming up. Can you just start thinking about it? We also created door hangers to hang on doors on homes all around the park to give illustrate different options of participation, including an online survey, which was open for 7 weeks. It was translated into 10 languages, and we also work with the trusted community voices to help get the word out about the survey itself, and to meet with community members who may not go online to fill out the survey together. So we had about over 200 responses in English, 1 in French, 1 in Bhutanese, I believe, and then 7 in Arabic, just to give you an idea. And my numbers may be a bit off. We've also been to the Boys and Girls Club during their Friday early evening programming with tweens and teens to hear what they want in a park. This was a scan. They had trace paper, which is like see-through paper on a plan, and drew in what they liked. There's hot tub on there, so everybody has to dream. And then what we do is we see all those dreams, and then we pare it down to the ones that are obviously come up the most, or that we see there's a need within the community. So we had sand pit, hot tub. There was a lot of love for the large swing that kids have experienced at Oakridge that accommodates multiple people, but also a lot of teens, because they can't fit in the usual swings anymore and the usual slides. So, just hearing that feedback makes us feel like in other parks there's those needs addressed, but obviously if you're a community member around Roosevelt, you're not always going down to Oakridge because there is a park right there. So in September, when our consultants were here to meet with focus groups, including our maintenance teams, Boys and Girls Club, City Center Little League, Kids on the Ball, etc., to hear about users in the park. We also were in the park to just talk to people who were walking by and let them know about the survey. So that's part of what people were writing down. We had water slide in there too. That's one of my favorites personally. And then there's that love for the spider swing that came from teens that were coming by. And then we had another event recently, the Halloween bike ride that's led by BPRW. For the second year in a row, we ended our journey in Roosevelt Park and had a pizza party. We put up the board, we got some comments again, and talked to folks about this project that's ongoing, which people came from all over the city to participate, but it's also good to know that this is going on, and it could also come to a park near them in the future. So back to last night, flashback. We were in this room, and we had a public meeting where everybody was invited to participate, and we try and make these meetings less talking to you like this, and more about like, let's have a conversation and let's do some interactive activities. We did start with a presentation, and I can go to the next slide, yeah. So that's just a picture of here. So we did start with a brief presentation because, as I mentioned, we had a survey out, a digital survey out for 7 weeks, and we wanted to kind of give the community an idea of what that survey entailed and what the results have been. This is not the whole survey. There's a lot of data that was collected, and all the slides from last night will be on our website shortly. Not tonight, but in the next week or so. That can be reviewed, and then you can look at the statistical information. But the nice thing to know is that 85% of the people who answered this survey are full-time residents of Burlington. So full-time meaning not a student. There are some students also who answered it, but know that 85% were from Burlington. And then out of that, 68% were from the Old North End. And in terms of the survey results, I just pulled out a couple I find interesting facts. Why does you or your family use the park? 65% was actually non-sports. For a park that's pretty full of amenities for active recreation, it was surprising to me that that was a high number for non-sports activities in the park. And then I'm always interested in knowing why people are not going to the park if it's right next door to them. thankfully, 57% said nothing stops me from going to the park, but the data that's really interesting is the lighting there does not make people feel safe. There's others that we'll go over in the next slide. No parking around the park. Obviously, we only have on-street parking, so it's first come, first serve. No bike parking, crosswalks, sidewalks are not accessible. And convenient bus route was also on there, which is something that you wouldn't necessarily think about in a neighborhood park. And then some of the other kind of results, it's hard to tell. Sometimes people don't put comments in there, but sometimes they do. A lot of people don't like dog poop, and they don't like dogs. That's definitely one of them. Then there's not enough unprogrammed space. So back to I go to the park because of non-sports. So because the park has a lot of programmed areas, people are really looking for that more peaceful, sitting on a bench, etc. Not enough shade in the park. As climate gets warmer, we're definitely going to see a lot more people talking about wanting shade in that park. So that's definitely something we were talking about in our groups last night. And there's definitely a lot more. Out of the 207 survey results, it's a lot of interesting comments. The other part of the presentation was just about site analysis. So if you haven't gone through one of these processes before, it's really about us looking at the park and what's already there so that we are not saying, hey, why don't we put in another X, Y, and Z when there's already that amenity there. So it's really about getting to know the park intimately. Some of the things that the analysis reveals, including, maybe not this one, but go to the next slide, sorry. Is that you can see here, we had a topographical survey done before we started the process. This is our property line, and the dugout for the ball field is outside the property line. So if we were to go and make improvements, or if there was a desired sidewalk on that side of the street, we would need to move everything inside the property line, because technically sidewalks are Department of Public Works purview. Just something to think about. And then we also look at the context of the park. So if the park didn't exist, where are these facilities close by in a walkable distance? For example, basketball, people could go to Pomeroy. But if you were thinking about another ball field, then you'd have to go all the way to Smalley, which is obviously a further walk. So one of the activities we had that's not featured here was we had a bit of a repetition from the survey to kind of reinforce that maybe the people who attended last night were not respondents of the survey of what activities they would like to see in the park that may not be there. So it was a sticker dot activity. Everybody loves stickers. And then the second activity was really to be a designer. Look at the park. We gave everybody we put everybody in groups, and everybody had a base map and then movable portions of different programming amenities to put on the map. And that's kind of an example of what people could be doing. And so there's moving around, lots of discussion about could we reorient, say, the ball field to make more space, or to maybe put the snack shack closer to where the path is. Could we move the playground out of Little Rosie into Big Rosie? Then what do you put in Little Rosie? And then just talking about competing needs and also amenities that you want to put together. Like bathrooms and playgrounds go super well together, but basketball courts and playgrounds, not so much. So just thinking about all the relationships between those different components and what that could look like. So this is an example of what was developed during that exercise in one of the groups. So now that we've had our first public meeting, next week we'll have a second Community Advisory Committee meeting, and then the next public meeting on the next slide will be sometime, we're aiming for February, but again, if we need more time, we will take that time to make sure we do it right. And that's all. If anybody's interested in the Community Advisory Committee, I'd be happy to talk to you about it after this meeting. And now we're open for questions.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
Questions and comments? Charlie will run mic.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Last night was awesome. I was able to come, and it was really a great event. So thank you so much for giving us the process that we were able to have last night. Could you talk a little bit more about the CAC? Because I think what's not obvious to everybody is that that's a brand new process for the Parks Department, and I think it's an awesome addition to the Parks Department's process. But I don't think that the community knows enough about what it is. And could you talk a little bit more about what its purpose is and how people could get involved if they missed the first entry point to that process?
Sure. So the Community Advisory Committee is intended to open the process to more individuals to provide input on how we execute the comprehensive plan process in general. It's also meant to remove barriers for people to participate in the process. So in that sense, there's an optional $50 stipend per meeting to remove barriers, including transportation, childcare, or if someone has a job that they need to miss to participate in the process. That's meant to help offset that cost. And it's really about diversity, inclusion, and equity to add to the process, because it tends to be, how can you say that? We tend to see not very much diversity in our meetings, essentially. And we had the first CAC meeting, and again, we had the conversation during that meeting that we looked around the room, and we were all white. So we want to include more diverse voices, not only people of color, but also different abilities to be able to have more of an engagement about what needs are missing in the park. Does that make sense?
Please broadcast that exists. I really, truly don't think people know that you're doing that, and I think it's awesome. And to get that greater involvement needs a bigger blast of information that exists, because I think it's a really thing that we should be proud of that the city's doing, but we don't know about it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I just had a mundane question, but when you were talking in the slides, or about the slides, you talked about tweens and teens at the Boys and Girls Club you had interviewed and given scratch pads for and things like that. But I didn't see anything in the breakdown in terms of age. You had demographics about people living in Burlington or outside, and there was percentages, but nothing about ages. And I was wondering if that was on the survey as well.
It is on the survey. It's just the presentation last night was way longer than 10 minutes. So it's just a snapshot of the survey results. But the average age was 45 to 55. Don't quote me on the bracket, but it was definitely not teens and tweens for sure. And that's where we're trying to go into places where teens and tweens and kids are to get their input. It may not show up in a survey, but we are hearing their voices in a different way. Oh, there was a good presence of teens in the room last night at the public meeting. Yeah. Yes.
I work at the school nearby.
Great.
And I'm wondering if anyone from the school is on the advisory committee. And working there, I can tell you that we go there all the time. And soon in the spring, there'll be some construction in our field at Integrated Arts Academy, and we'll probably use the park even more. But so that's younger students, not tweens and teens in the elementary level, and to get them involved, we really need to come and kind of meet us at the school, or maybe meet them when they're at the park. Also, just to put it out there, going to the park with young children, there's always a staffing issue when someone needs to go to the bathroom. So bathrooms in the park would be amazing.
We've heard that a couple of times. If you would be a contact at the school that we could get into the school, we are more than excited to come and talk to the kids about the project. Nope. There was someone who signed up at one point but has not come physically to a meeting. Yeah. Yes.
Sophie, my experience with the park is coaching both Little League, soccer, and then across the street at the Boys and Girls Club for most of 12 years when my kids were sort of still active. I am a little worried that the survey method might kind of leave out the most likely active users of the park because it is geared towards people who look at surveys and fill them out. So I want to caution not to draw too many conclusions from the results. So when I see those results, I think, well, the kids that I recruited out of Riverside Apartments and, drove to games all over the region, like there's just not in the mix when I look at a survey like that. So I just want to be clear that I think the people who might be most impacted by Roosevelt aren't going to be captured by a lot of these processes. They're not here tonight. And
right.
It's really, to me, the place is for kids whose families don't have access to yards to do stuff in. That's a lot of what I think Roosevelt ends up being.
Absolutely.
It needs to be.
Yeah. So. And we're aware that there's, not skewed, but there's a gap in the survey results in terms of accessing that information. And that's why we keep trying to meet with different groups and different, in different ways to try and get more of that information. And that's where I feel like the information that says, why am I not going to the park, is sometimes more important than why am I going to the park. Because those may be just basic amenities like shelter or picnic tables or benches that make people feel comfortable when they're walking through the park or to the park. So I appreciate that reminder, but I appreciate the reminder, and we're going to continue to try and just get that answer, or those opinions about why, yeah.
Hi, I'm curious about how parking would work with this park. Like, I'm sure this would be a better question for a meeting specifically about the park, but like trying to add bathrooms on and possibly a splash pad while also adding like parking spots, because cars are pretty big. I'm curious if like there could also, because if there's like baseball games taking place and people needing to drive from other places, if like, I'm curious what your goals are, like who your audience is, if it's more like people walking around, like neighborhood people who can walk to town. Obviously, I want it to be accessible for like disabled people, but also like, would it be possible to partner with the school to like have parking at the school on the weekends or like after school? Have those been ideas for parking?
So we're, at least one of our goals is not to add parking in the park. It's just looking at what exists around the park because it is on-street parking. But as you pointed out, there are no accessible parking spaces around the park. So that to me is an issue that we need to address as part of the study, is to look at accessibility to get into the park if you're someone who drives to the park and needs to have a parking space and a curb cut to get in. But adding in parking I don't think is an option. Each park has a limit in impervious surface. This park is almost at that maximum. So if we were to pave anything or add a parking lot, that would kind of throw it through the roof, so to speak. So it's not being considered in that way.
Okay, the picture just looked like shocking us. I don't know. I definitely misread it then.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. I'm Barbara Winroth, and this is not the park that I live near, but I'm always concerned when people start working on parks that they really, you say looking to the future should be always as green, if not greener, for our environment. Also, too, less hard surface. So maximum of green and softness and not so much hard surface, please, for any park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last question. So Burlington is spending an awful lot of money. So they're upgrading the parks, Main Street, St. Paul Street, Memorial Auditorium, the Moran Plant, Pine Street, the rail yard. So where does all the money come from to work on this park?
So as I mentioned, the comprehensive plan is meant to identify projects to put into our capital plan. Part of the funding for the project is from Penny for Parks, which is a penny on the tax rate that goes into fund to fund parks maintenance, upgrades, etc. every year. So this project was identified as part of our capital planning, and then the projects that we identify as part of the comprehensive plan will go into our capital plan. And then when we have our allocation from Penny for Parks, that's how we determine what projects we initiate every year.
The only thing I'd add to that is if the community decides that they do want a shelter, the city has set aside $250,000 of the ARPA funds for a shelter at Roosevelt Park. But again, it would need to be something that the community wants there. So we won't start building until we find that one out.
So that's the key to the comprehensive plan, is really the engagement piece, to know that the investments that we're going to make into the future are what the community wants. And that's where the voice of the kids is really important, because they'll be the ones enjoying a lot of the changes or additions or improvements we make over time, because they won't be done in a year.
I just, one quick question. I think one of the experiences that we had at our table last night was sort of realizing we were putting all these it's the big dreaming phase, and it was a wonderful experience to dream, but also realizing that we won't get all of our dreams. But a question came up at our table, if a splash pad, if we don't want a splash pad in this park, can it go in Battery Park? And so I'm kind of curious just to connect for us, because I know that the Battery Park process is going to be happening at another time and not simultaneously, maybe simultaneously, but can you give us, as community members of the Old North End, what the Battery Park, not the exact timeline, but how that's kind of maybe overlapping or not overlapping with us, so that if we miss a chance to get something that we wanted in Roosevelt Park, that we might have a chance to get that in Battery Park if we miss that window?
Sure. So they won't be overlapping. The next comprehensive plan will be the citywide park update to the citywide park plan. So that'll be the next one, and then it's Battery Park. So looking around fiscal year 26. But the timeline is always depends on this one finishing up first.
Great, thank you. I'm going to take facilitator prerogative and try a little experiment. So something the steering committee struggles with is trying to create kind of community at our NPAs and have introductions of our attendees, and we put it at the beginning, and then the beginning is always crazy and lots of people moving around and still talking, so we always skip it. So I thought tonight I might try going around the room, and if you could just say your name, the street that you live on, and then if you could share your favorite thing about the park that you hope stays, or something that you would love to see there, just real short, not even a sentence. I thought it would be a fun flash poll and a nice way to get to know each other, and we see each other often, and a lot of us don't know each other. So I'll just pass the mic, and just keep it brief, please.
Hi, I'm Ollie, Convent Square, Ward 2, Old Ward 3. And I would love to see more trees throughout the parks.
Andrea Todd, Rose Street. That was my wish too, is more shade covering trees.
Milo Grant, Crowley Street, Ward 2, formerly Ward 3. I guess I'm really excited to have the tennis courts resurfaced because I think it's great to have the kids playing there, but when I look at the other tennis courts across the city, I just feel that ours have really been neglected.
I'm Solveig Overby. I live on Walnut Street. I live at First Base on the Little League Park there across from Roosevelt Park. And I actually like all the activities that happen in the park. There are so many things happening in there. But the one thing that I think might be nice would be the ice skating rink in the winter could use a warming, at the end of the building being used as a warming hut, which it was, 50 years ago, that was a bigger ice skating area. So that would be something I'd like to see happen.
I'm Trav Fryer on Hyde Street. I like to play Ultimate Frisbee in the park and tennis sometimes. So as long as I can do those things, I'm happy. It's a great park, I think.
I'm Sydney. I also live on Hyde Street, and what I'd love to see in the park is bathrooms because I'm a runner and I'm often needing to stop to use the bathroom.
Oh, Patrick, I live on Green Street.
What do you want to see?
What do I want to see? More needles.
Oh. Hi, I'm Reggie on Crombie, and I like Battery Park a lot. I play Frisbee there as well. I think it's an important park for children to have access to sporting and running around and just being free. We're being a very, very dense neighborhood and an urban center of Burlington. It's important to have walkable access to nature and sports fields. And we have the Intervale, but that's not really a good place to run around in as a kid playing soccer. So anything to encourage sport use is what I like.
Alyssa, I also live on Crombie. I guess I already said bathrooms, so I'll stick to that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica. I live on Decatur Street. I use she, her pronouns. And my favorite thing about the park is the ice skating rink in the winter.
My name is Lauren. I live on North Ave, so kind of far from the park, but I do always love seeing that it's a great space for kids to get out and play sports, like you said. So I want to make sure that that's continued to be prioritized.
My name's Roxanne. I live on Pitkin Street. I go to Roosevelt Park too often. I didn't realize there was an ice skating rink there, and I'm excited about that.
Hi, I'm Shelby. I'm in Ward 2 on Manhattan, so I walk through with my dog a lot. And I would like to see some curb cuts for accessibility and wheelchair use. And yeah, and I'm excited for the tennis courts to be done. They're looking good.
I'm Mark. I like the idea of bathrooms and shade.
I'm Barbara, and I like the idea of a park saying welcome, come on in, and also too a real place for children. Downtown, there's next to no place for children.
Is this working? Oh, hi, I'm Sean. I live on North Champlain Street. Pump track. That's for you, Cindy.
I'm Ellie. I live on Elmwood, and I walk through Roosevelt Park on my way to work every morning in the dark, so I'm a big fan of the lit-up crosswalk edition by the Boys and Girls Club, and it'd be cool to have something similar on the other end.
My name's Dan Kirk, also live on Elmwood. I can't believe I'm going to be the first person to say it, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but pickleball courts.
Hi, I'm Nora. I live on Hyde. I haven't really been to Roosevelt Park, admittedly. I'm new to the Old North End as of June, but I will be moving to Ward 3 next June because I just moved too much. But I Alexia already shared. I don't know, bathrooms and just soft green spaces, as Barbara was sharing.
I'm Nate. I live on Hyde Street, and I would like to see more trees in the park.
I'm Amy, and I live on Johnson Street, and I would like to see, I would like to see the what is it, Rosie Park kept, what, Little Rosie Park kept going and kept in good shape, and I would love to see more trees across the street, and a big Rosie.
I'm Janet, and I don't really live in wards 2 or 3, but I've been coming to this NPA for 35 years. So, and I would like to see bathrooms and more greenery and more permeable surface. And I miss some of the green from downtown in City Hall Park. Thank you. This gentleman is a guest from Europe, just momentarily, and this gentleman is shy.
Hi, I'm Fosca. I believe Ward 2. I live on Park Street. I've only been living here for 2 months in this area of Burlington, though, so I've never been to the park. But I'm excited for the project.
And I'm Travis. I live on King Street in Ward 3. I really enjoy the fact that there's kids that play there, mainly because since BHS is in Macy's, they have no outdoor space to play at, so that's one of the closest places for them to go. So I really appreciate that.
Wonderful. We have a couple more people.
Hi, I'm Megan. I like taking the kids I work with to Roosevelt Park on nature walks, and I'd love a ping pong table because I can't play tennis, but I love ping pong, and that'd be fun. But you guys would have to give out paddles to everyone, though, so.
Nice. I think we have a couple people on Zoom. Do they want to say anything? Jeannie?
I do. Yeah, I miss that there used to be like an overhang that, even though it was concrete, but it was a place where you could have a little cookout and a little picnic, kind of like not a pavilion, but it was a place where you could gather.
Great. Polly?
Hi, thanks. I realized I don't have to raise my hand. What I love about that park is the way that it has opportunities for so many different sports. Like it has baseball, and it has tennis, and it has basketball, and it has walking and a playground. And the only improvement I could think of would be, if possible, with all those things and keeping all those things, some shade trees.
Great. My 2 cents, I'm Molly. I live on the Fountain Street, and I think it'd be really cool to have a splash pad there. There's a lot of free-range kids, and the lake is not so swimmable all the time.
I don't think it actually swim.
There's another person on Zoom. Great.
Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm Chris Statz. I live on Decatur Street. I've been listening from over here. Sorry, I couldn't make it in person. One of the things that happens a lot in the summertime is it's a food distribution place. And so it'd be really nice for a lot of times, especially this summer, there wasn't a lot of, there were quite a few storms, as you can remember, and people had nowhere to shelter while they were eating dinner. So if some way that there could be more semi-permanent protection from the elements, especially while giving people much needed food, that would be great.
Wonderful. I think that's everybody. Thank you. Oh, sorry, there's one more person.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tony. I live on North Street. I'm sorry I couldn't make it in. I'll try to in the future. I think Roosevelt Park is great, and I have to agree with Polly. If you can thread that needle to keep everything the way it is, and then also add some shade trees, we'll be in good shape.
Great. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, everyone. Our meeting went a little long, but I think we had some valuable discussion. The question is, what are the hours of the current bathroom, and is it accessible?
It's run by the Boys and Girls Club, and I'm not exactly sure. I know when we have the meals program, they open it up for that. If we have an event in the park, they open it up for that. But I don't know about regular hours, that it's like just open, like we have in some of our other parks where we can have bathrooms open for like, you know, say 7 in the morning till 8 at night. Yeah, yeah, I mean, they can be open separately, but just it's a matter of someone has to clean it, take care of it. And no, I don't know that for a fact. I can find out though.
Great, thank you. So the last item of business is our door prize. Since you asked the last question, you can draw it, Slovig. Just any of those cards, yep. Okay. Oh, it's Joe McGee, but I saw him leave. You have to be here to win. Okay, next one. I love my rules. Fosca! Yay! Thanks for coming, everybody. Have a good night.
So if people could help.